Hello viewers, so on to another video now for F1 2011. This time we're going to look a little bit at the handling, and the key things on this version. Obviously we've got suspension, we've got the tyres, and it's how the car behaves with traction control turned on and off. This video now looks a little bit more at the traction control system. Let's take a look at starts. A lot of what I do is trial and error then when it comes to testing out the handling. I know a lot of people say, well, you know, you want to tune your wheel, tune your setup, everything else, but first you need to play the game and understand the handling. One important factor is starts. What do you need to do at the start? Well, you can hear the revs there. I've just put my foot down, traction control off, see what happens, and the car does go away quite comfortably. Now, it sounds awful in the gears, and so initially when I did that, I thought, oh, maybe I need to back out of the power to get better traction, which is what I did actually on my Ferrari video, but I've actually found that if you just put your foot down, you can get away pretty well. So I was quite surprised at that. One start, okay, that's fine. Let's try that again, a restart. There's a lot of trial and error that goes on to ascertain the handling of a game like this, just to see how it works. I'm sure it doesn't do my tyres any good, but it certainly always gives you a pretty consistent start. I found if I came off the power, I'd often lose a place or two. The Red Bull handles completely different to the McLaren and Ferrari. Totally different turning circle on the car and a lot more travel in the wheel. So that was fine. I think to myself, right, traction control off, put your foot down, get away, battling for third place into turn one. Let's turn traction control on and see how we get on from here. So altering the options then and restarting the race. I thought I'd leave this as a complete clip so you can actually see what I do. So starting again, just checking the start, and away we go. Again, a good start there, traction control on, you know, like I say, up into third place, perfect. Just gives me a rough idea, that's fine. So I want to run that again now. Again, checking the options here and turning everything off again, back to how I want it, and now it's time to do some racing. Not a massive difference really between them. Traction control on and off. First when I had traction control off, I felt like I was getting a lot of wheel spin. It made me want to back out of the power and then progressively accelerate. But in actual fact, you can put your foot down and get a reasonably good start with or without traction control. It's the easy way out essentially. Seems to work pretty well every time, as long as you get through the gears. You know, first gear is a bit longer than second gear is very short, and you're quickly into third. So often if I over rev, I'm over revving in second and third gear, rather than of course the higher gears are a little bit longer. So that's a quick look at the start. One thing I did notice straight away in racing this was the Red Bull had a lot more travel in the wheel than the Ferrari that I've been using so far. Massive difference in fact. So I thought, right, what I'm going to do is change from the Red Bull to the Ferrari, and let's just do a lap and compare the differences. Let's check this out. So on board with the Ferrari then, traction control turned on. Let's see how we get on. There are a couple of key areas. Putting my foot down now so I know how to start. So I've done my practice laps, learning how to drive the cars. I've tested a couple of cars and now I've learned how to start. So it's piece by piece when you want to learn a game like this. Having a bit of jostle there. Very light touches on the other cars. Lucky not to lose my front wing. So first thing obviously is the car is much more planted. I can just put my foot down, very comfortable. You know, there is room for error with it. Car will hang on to some of these corners very comfortably. Nice. So you can look like a Formula 1 driver and feel like a Formula 1 driver, but not have to do all what the F1 drivers have to do in the way of throttle control, and it works very well indeed. See the car working well. I'm easy to just plant my foot down on the power out the slow corners, and the car will stay there. Counting for my tyres a little bit there, but I'm just sort of rinsing it out just to see what the car can do. And we're coming up to 130R now. This is a critical corner because it's completely different traction on, traction off, as you'll see. So around there, just hammer it round full speed and throw the car into it. Works nice over that final chicane. Nice line there. Quickly on the power out the chicane, you don't get that same sort of wheel spin. Often you're struggling for grip over those bumps.
and down the straight to complete a lap. Very comfortable. Didn't quite get the car in where I wanted it to through that whole corner, wide through both apexes. But again, that's all practice essentially. Do a few more laps and you'll be fine. So driving this with the Red Bull was completely different. Wide up the hill that time. It's a tricky corner actually. Does seem to be a lot harsher on this game than it does on certain other versions I've played. And again, every version of these tracks is often different. So, traction control off then. This is a completely different ball game. Again, putting my foot down. And away we go. Just looking at making sure my gear changes are the optimum. As late as I can into turn 1 to be comfortable. Don't necessarily want lots of contact. Felipe's in my way there. Felipe, I'm faster than you. By the way, Felipe keeps track position. So around these first few corners, the back end sliding. Here we go. This is the first big difference. Back end loses it completely here. I have to come out the power. Wow, big difference there. So you can see I just can't get on the power in quite the same way. You've got to be much more progressive and slower, otherwise you will be spinning out some of these corners. Not too bad through here. But again, coming up to the hairpin now. I'm actually lifting a little bit there before braking. The car in, not too bad, but again, really progressive from the power. Didn't necessarily want to use all the curb, and so now round up the hill to the spoon. Let's hope I get it in a bit better this time than I did before. Not too bad. Car's wobbling around a bit though. I'm taking my time to get on the power. Now it's a critical corner, 130R. Can I put my foot down and take it at full speed with traction control turned off? Let's see. So foot down, ready to turn. No, the car just wouldn't get in there. So the difference in traction is you cannot just put your foot down every time. And that is a good example of the difference. I could have crashed off on a few of those corners, but I just wanted to demonstrate a high-speed corner, putting your foot down, it can often end badly with traction control turned off. So
okay, so that was pretty cool seeing the differences. There is a big difference between driving with traction control off and driving with it on. I suppose in a way though, I do find it strange that, say, a corner like the 130R, that you need to back out of the power for a corner like that. It's almost like I'm lacking downforce. And on such a high speed corner, you'd expect the car to have a bit more downforce. It's something I'm going to investigate more and more as I go through the game. There is that kind of twitchiness to traction control off. I think it's important that you've got that kind of control there, which is really cool. Let's take a look at them side by side.
Okay, so now we're just going to look at a side-by-side comparison essentially of traction control on and off, to look at variable speeds and stuff like that to see how it affects you. I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, can I compete with traction control off? Traction control off is quicker in some corners, traction control on is a bit slower in some corners, but ultimately it's much easier to drive in longer runs with traction control on. So you'll see here that off actually has a slight lead at the beginning. Got a good start, got around those corners quickly. The car's a bit more twitchy and pointy, so it gets into those corners, but then as soon as we get to the points where I start to have to lift with traction control off, you can see the other screen there increasing speed and getting closer, so they're practically identical now. And now the traction control on has pulled out a little bit of a lead, and you can see I'm able to just be a little bit more aggressive. This is a lot more noticeable in the wet weather conditions as well. So again, a little bit of a lead there. I can just be that little bit more aggressive, just get on the power and know that the car's not going to slide out, it's going to stay stuck to the ground, despite the slightly better line there for the traction control off. Down the hill then, and we all know what's coming now. But I thought I would put together this little example just to show the different sort of driving techniques that you're going to need in racing. It's just on and off. There we go, boom. A nice crash there as well. No safety car for me yet, viewers, but there's just an early quick look at handling.
Okay, so that was a look at the handling then, just a brief sort of first impressions, if you like. I know a lot of people are going to be asking me about handling in AI and what I think, and the only way to find that out is to do lots and lots of laps, and I haven't done enough laps and I haven't used enough cars yet to come up with an impression. I just find corners here and there where, you know, I like the feel or don't like the feel. I mean, as I say, we have the 130R where you'd expect the car to be planted on a high-speed corner like that, and the back end just kind of loses it. Maybe that's me. Maybe I need more rear downforce to keep the car on there. That's something I need to investigate. It was the same, I think, with turn 6, somewhere like that, where the car was going uphill on a left-hander and it was just sort of understeering, and then the back end would come out and I'd have to back out the power and stuff like that. So there is a big difference between using traction control and not using traction control, and that's just in the dry, and I haven't got to the wet yet. That's all still to come. But certainly there's a lot more movement in the car, a lot more body language now. It's not as planted, and it's very different when you turn traction control off. But that's what makes it loads more fun, and that's what I really like, is controlling the rear end, making sure that the car is where I place it and that I'm progressive for my acceleration. Certainly a lot of fun so far, and you'll see on the longer runs, such as Monza I've put up recently, you'll see I'm actually quite comfortable with the handling when I get into a flow, but loads more time to dig out. You know, it really is just going to be doing lots of laps, tuning your car and really learning how to max out your DRS, your curves and everything else. So a first look then at traction control and some of the handling bits and pieces. Send in your questions, I'll answer those where possible. Also don't forget to add me on Twitter as well, we want to grow that. And also the VVV meet, if you're in London on the 1st of October, pop along. I'd like to meet some of you. I'm going to be at a Central London pub, and that link is below this message as well, so come along, and it'd be nice to meet a lot of you. But that's it for now, viewers, and I'll leave you with an early traction control tester in the rain at Spa.
Okay, so let's take a look now at some rain driving traction control on and off. We'll be doing lots more of this in the coming days, of course. This is a very brief test. So you can see traction control on at the top there. I can get a bit leery, I can use a lot more of the curbs, a lot more of the track, whereas traction control off I have to be much more careful. I mean, that turn 1 there, you can actually spin out of that very easily with traction control off. Even when you're not on the power, just turn in, the car will spin out. Up Eau Rouge then, big lift with traction control off. Just can't get on the power with it at all. The back end's moving so much, you know. There is a bit more speed there, obviously with practice, but for me, just having my first few goes, I could see that it was going to take a lot of laps to really maximise it and find out how the car really, sort of, where the maximum is in the wet, as it were. So I can be a lot more aggressive with traction control on. I can feel comfortable planting my foot down. You can see I'm close to the gold car there. I haven't beaten it yet. I'll have to work a bit harder on that. This is from the time attack mode, so one of the many challenges in the game. I can get a bit more leery, and I think with traction control it really is just a case of seeing how fast you can go, put the foot down. But with traction control off, I'm nowhere near, I'm miles behind. So you can see through this section I'm sort of tiptoeing on the power. I can take that curve because I'm already up to speed, but I'm coasting through these sections, doing the best I can, but the car is twitching about a lot more than it looks sometimes. I'm just trying to be very progressive with it. As soon as it starts to twitch, often it's all over for you, so you don't want to get on the power too quickly. Obviously there's a lot of understeer in the rain as well, massive understeer in fact. And this is a corner now, if you look at traction control off, which we're coming to here, it was taken okay with traction control on, but with traction control off, I turn in, I can feel the car just isn't going to make it. It's going to spin out if I try to turn in anymore. So coming to the end of the lap there, so you can see there is a bit of a difference. Taking that corner with traction control on a bit too leery, still just trying to stamp on it to beat the gold, but unable to that time, need a bit more practice. But it's just a quick look in the wet, loads more analysis to come when I have time in the coming days.